Okay, so if people are listening and they're like, oh, okay, I want to try and make contact with a spirit, are there ways to do it that are safe ways, but ways that you have found in doing all this research really works?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, first, do you need to start by finding a location that's supposedly haunted?
Yes and no. I think it helps, like, kind of if we go back with the energy, if you know there's something intense has happened there, especially. That's the thing, we tend to go to like darker locations. We tend to focus more on, darker history because there's something that's stronger, like the energy is more intense there.
Right.
But you don't have to. I think honestly they're everywhere. I think a lot of it is being open-minded. If you're closed off and you're just like 100%, like you're probably not going to experience anything.
Right.
So I think being open-minded is a big part of it. But then also just communicating, just open up. You don't necessarily need devices. Even like you can use your phone and record and just talk and see if anything comes through, see if anything happens. Try to actually directly communicate with something. It feels weird at first because you're just maybe in a room by yourself and there's nothing there, but you try to communicate. But at the same time, it's kind of like the Ouija board. You're opening up that, whether they're portals, whether it's whatever it is during that act of communicating, whether it's a Ouija board, whether it's a spirit box, EVP session, XLS, anything that you're trying to communicate, you're opening up a doorway and you can't guarantee what's going to come through.
Right.
Like when we did the Ouija board, we felt it was a little boy spirit, but obviously it wasn't. It was something darker. So I think that's the thing, that I always tell people. Like people are like, how do we get into it? I was like, don't. Like sometimes it's easier. I think like we're so far in it, it's kind of just what we do now, but like it can be very dangerous. I've seen a lot of, people get hurt. I've seen people die. I've seen things, we've lost a lot of friends that dove really deep into the paranormal and it's like overtaken them.
Because what happens? They get paranoid, they get obsessed.
They just get like negative. Like I've seen, beautiful people that were beautiful souls that were in love and positive and close friends. And then last time I saw them, they were saying that they felt something followed them home. And then a few months later, they're both dead in a murder-suicide. I don't want to get too much into details, but like, we've seen this happen. Just now, we just found out today, actually, which is just weird. All these things happen. I don't want to say like there's a curse or something, but weird things happen around us. We all go through different things, all of us on the show, and even our extended family, friends, people that come in and out of the show. We have a new episode this season that we did at the Haunted Museum, and we had a special guest come in with ashes, and we just found out today that that person was just involved in some crazy shootout thing with the police. Like, it's just weird how these things happen. We had Post Malone come to the museum. He was on an episode, and he came to the museum to hang out afterwards, and he touched, via Zach, they kind of had this thing happen, not to get too crazy with it, but they had an experience, and after that, his plane crashed. He got into a crazy car crash, and then his house was broken into, his old house. Luckily, he wasn't there anymore, but they came in with guns looking for him. And so it's like these weird things happen, to us and sometimes to the people around us.
So it's funny you mention that because coming into this, I was like, I don't really have any experiences that are positive where I can say, oh, I kind of believe, because I'll tell you the negative ones in a second. But as you were talking and right before, I did remember one curse that I do truly believe in my family. My grandfather's stepfather, his name was Rob DePeister Titus, I believe is his name. He was one of the guys, the 11 men who excavated King Tut's tomb. Oh, wow, yeah. And there was a curse that said that if you, and I don't know the exact curse, but if you Google it, something about how everyone will die,
right, for disturbing
the bones, whatever. And I think it was if they had actually removed artifacts or things in this tomb, which they all had, all 11 of them died. Right. And what was interesting is Rob came back. He married my grandfather's mother at the time. She soon after died. He had some artifacts. He built this beautiful home. It's called Ashentelly. It's in the Berkshires. It was a 35-room house built in bricks, and they have beautiful pictures of horses and all these people, going up the hill to build this house, and it was known as a house almost like the Titanic that could not burn down. Rob died also of a mysterious, thing. And my grandfather then was the son and inherited the home. All sorts of weird things around him happened. He had the artifacts in this home. And long story short, he got married. He moved down the hill into a new house. They built a house because it was too big and it was very cold. It was very hard to heat. And there was just a few things left in it. And one day the wife was burning trash and somehow the wind blows the trash up the hill in a way that they were like, this could never happen.
Right.
And goes right to the house and they could not stop the fire. And to this day, it's really beautiful. Only the 4 pillars are still standing.
Really?
People go and visit it. Maybe it's something you guys want to check out.
Right.
But and then all the ruins are underneath it. And people come and check it out and try and find, cool things. But to the day my grandfather died, he always said that house was cursed. There's no way it could have burned down. Right. They did everything. The entire town tried to put out the fire and nothing, nothing would work. And it kind of haunted him forever that everyone around him died and he was the only one to live. And he always believed that it was because Rob was his stepfather and he didn't necessarily grow up with him and too close to him, but he inherited this house that made him feel like he couldn't live in it. It was too cold and it was not even about the heat. He just kept saying it was cold.
Right.
So anyway.
It's almost like an uninviting coldness. It's just like you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah. So it's a place that people tour and it's really beautiful. And as a kid, I remember going into all the tunnels because, all the bricks are down and you can see where it's all burnt, but you can still go into all these underground things. It's really neat.
That sounds really cool.
The other experience I had, listen, I've had 2 very important people in my life die. My fiance from years ago and my father when he was very young and I was young. He was 44, I was 15. So as I've gotten older, people are like, oh, I want to, have somebody talk to you. I want, a medium to meet with you. And it's, listen, I just feel like people can Google who you are, even if you're not Googleable.
Right.
There are signs, I guess, that, that like not a magician, but someone who's a mentalist can figure out anything about you and they can say things and you're like, yeah, that is me. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, they almost feed you lines. You're like, oh, you're having a little trouble at work. Right. Oh my God, I am. How'd you know that? 90% of the world.
Or you have issues with, falling in love. Okay, well, who doesn't, So, and the last interaction I had with someone, they called me and they said, the weirdest thing happened. This, it was Andy, a big guy. He was standing behind me. He wants me to tell you something. And I get really agitated about stuff like that because I'm like, well, I'd love that to be true. And I'd love to hear what he has to say. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, don't make shit up. And then you never really know. You know what I mean? So it's a very hard thing because I think as people who are somewhat skeptical, you really want to believe. You would do anything to believe. But you just don't know how to, unless you have an experience like you're talking about where you actually feel it or see it. And I remember watching those movies that I loved. I guess it was called Paranormal Activity or something where you see the girl yanked out of the bed in the middle of the night. And I kind of would love for something like that to happen. If anyone's listening, don't do that to me. I'm kidding. But that would show me that that's real. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, and I think, and I get skeptics. I get people that are like, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that and I respect that. And I feel it is something that you need to experience to truly believe it and truly, see it. But I think there's something, I think it's something that we all want to know. We're all, even if people don't talk about it, there's a curiosity. And one thing I found about our show that I felt was almost fulfilling is I've heard from people that they're like, oh, I've thought I've been crazy my whole life. Or 20 years ago, we couldn't talk about this. I had experiences and you would get locked up and, put away or considered crazy, or they try to tell their friends and family and they're like, you're nuts. But they've seen our show and being on for so long and what we've experienced, it's given people this sense of hope and being like, oh, you're not alone. Yeah. These experiences you're having are experiences other people are having. And it's kind of created a community that people can actually talk about, and share stories and share things. And I think the more we do that, the more we're going to learn even more what is actually going on and what is all this stuff that's happening.